Hark now, mates, lend an ear.
Hear us now.
Captain Franz at the helm so steer. Gather round the partnership's deck.
Scripts command.
Tales from the leaders of the partnership train. So we chant by the podcast glow. Through veritable seas to boxes flow. Dar or die. Hoist the sail.
Welcome, everybody, to another episode of The Partnership. I'm incredibly excited to have on me today Amelia Taylor, who is an all-around thought leader in the sales space, and then recently started dabbling in partnerships, which is how we got to know each other on the LinkedIn, and we have a lot of familiar connections as well. So shout out to Will Taylor and others. So I'm just really excited to have you on the show. I feel like this has been a long time coming. And one of the things which I had an issue with this show is that we oftentimes talk to partnerships people and we kind of stay in this silo of like, isn't it great how well partnerships work? And so I'm also excited to talk about just the experience you have with sales and how sales and partnerships either bang heads or can assist each other, depending on how you implement it. Welcome, Amelia.
Thank you so much. Well, I have been a fangirl over here, and I sent Franz a message, and I was like, hey, I read your book, and we should be friends, and can we chat at some point? So I'm happy that we made this happen. So I think that's the power of how sales and marketing. Well, that's a big topic, right? But sales and partnerships can actually befriend one another. It's like sellers, go talk to your partnership people. Like, go talk to people out in the wild that are doing partnerships really well and get to know what another whole department does, because there's so much added benefit when you know what the other sides of the organizations are doing, especially when it comes to partnerships, when you know the power of that. So I'm thrilled to be here, thrilled to dive in and jump into this topic, because it's very much the one that I'm a firm believer in, that needs to be discussed and more in depth, and the ins and outs and ups and downs into how you actually do the things to make partnerships and sales work together in the very best way.
Yeah, absolutely. And as somebody who fell into partnerships through sales, I feel like I also have an appreciation for the work both sides do. But before we dive in, I want to give a quick shout out to Kirby, who's joining us live. Thanks for commenting in the chat. Let us know in the chat where you're all joining from. I would be curious to know like where our audience is from today. And then if you have any questions or complaints or feedback, or just want to like tell us a funny story, this is the time as well. Like, drop them in the chat and Amelia and I will answer them live as well. Okay, with that being said, I want to go into like the main topic of today, which is sales versus partnerships, and specifically what is the difference. And I'm gonna tee this one up. A while back, I read a book called The Sumo Advantage by Bernie Brenner. It's about business development, and he outlines the difference between business development and sales specifically. And he says like sales is short term, and then business development is like strategic and long term. And I thought that made a lot of sense to me, so I posted about it on LinkedIn, and I almost got canceled. Like, so many people who work in sales were so upset with me. I got like DMs. I was like, this is disrespectful. Like, how could you? This is like so outrageous. I was such a big fan before, but now like this is not what I thought you would post. It makes me as a salesperson feel bad, which is the opposite of what I thought. Because personally, like, I'm a big fan of sales and I appreciate the work salespeople do a lot. And actually, like, the company would not run without sales, frankly. Like, at the grand scheme of things, like, partnership people like to think they're so important, but at the end of the day, sales is the one who actually pays the bills for everybody. So I'm curious on your thoughts. Like, what's the difference between sales and partnerships?
I mean, you're so right. Let me just preface like what you're saying too before I dive into them. Every department thinks that they are more important than everyone else, right? So like it's any department, they're like, no, we're the winners here. We're the ones doing all this work. We're the ones doing this. It's a awareness problem across a vast majority, if not all companies, where they're not looking, we're trying to understand the other side of the business. So I think that's just is what it is, and I'll leave that there. But when you said it really before I could really answer, I mean, sales is speed. It is. Partnerships is momentum, in my opinion. And there's the whole, okay, sales, we're going to be selling, we're going to be pushing things forward, we're going to be getting that revenue, we're going to be using the contracts, we're going in, we're looking at that like revenue focused driven mindset. Like, that's how you got to go into sales. But then if you're using your partnerships, the partners that you have, and those are the deals that are already in motion before you already step in. So that's the biggest thing as to how I have found myself looking from a bird's eye view at things like, okay, why are things not progressing the way that they should? Or how could I have more momentum in what I'm doing as a seller, trying to speed things up? It's like, oh, why am I not working through partners? So, you know, personally for myself over the past couple of years, which has been kind of accidental but intentional in the same way, if that can be, if that's not too contradictory, but I've it's been a little over 50% of deals that I've closed have come through with partners that I have been able to drive. So closed revenue has been with partners because they were already influenced. Like was it was not the, versus the whole traditional outbound motion. Like, I'm not one to ever go against. I don't do traditional well to begin with. I do unorthodox through and through. And anybody who's ever worked with me, they know that I don't have an approach that is something that is a swimming downstream. I swim upstream, very salmon-like, and happily will do so because I want to figure out what works and what doesn't work. Process of elimination, right? So that's one of the biggest things. So uh, knowing that I didn't have to go and spend all this time searching for this attention from these potential buyers and places maybe they weren't living and talking and breathing and their problem space or whatnot, I was having already trusted conversations by way of working with partners. So I would say
Yeah.
one of the biggest mistakes is that sales is treating, cancel me if you want, people, by jumping on this one too, but like the sellers are treating partnerships as though it's someone else's job. And I think that is such a misconception. Like partnerships is not, oh, that's someone else's job to do the partnership aspect of things. Like, no, 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 no. Because the best sellers know how to leverage the relationship strategically and actually move deals faster, which is going to
Yeah.
be a higher ACV. I mean, all in all, partnership wins when you work in tandem with sales. But that goes into more of what we're going to dive into. Like, okay, but how do you do that?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. I think it's so important. Like partners really set the context of a company or of a sales deal as well, right? So I think like for like go back to Bernie Brenner's point, like partnerships tend to be more long term because they tend to be more like looking at the vision of the company and looking at like the market that you operate in as a whole versus like an individual sales deal, which is much more tactical and is like
Mhm.
short term revenue oriented. I had this experience actually like last week. We were at South by Southwest, which is a big
Right.
conference in Austin, Texas. I got my
I'm so
cowboy boots as
jealous.
well. My
So
wife
jealous.
was so upset. I came back with these like really expensive, like giant cowboy boots, and she was like, "Oh my god, this guy."
I love
Um,
it. I love it.
but but when we were at South by Southwest, like we sponsored a house with one of our customers, and it was a completely different experience than having conversations with other potential customers at that house, for example, as well, because the context in which the conversation happened was like, "Hey, this person is like legit. They're part of our venue. Like we vetted them." And so because of
Mhm.
that, like there was much more like interest and like just generally like goodwill on for all parties involved because we were a trusted partner or a trusted
Mhm.
introduction versus like just coming in cold into somebody's email and just going like, hey, do you want to buy this product?
Right.
um
Which is, please
I
don't do that, people. Please.
Yeah. I mean, I'm curious for your thoughts actually. Like I don't know if cold outbound emails are dead. I feel like cold outbound actually still works to a certain degree, but it's just like an uphill battle, like you
Mhm.
said. Like it's just much
I
harder because you're just coming in without any context. Like there's no context around you at all.
There's no context. There's a lot of, I mean, if I can help a sales rep, if they're coming in my inbox, I am not your ICP. I am a one-man show over here. Like I'm not someone to where I'm going to go buy rippling from my sorry, I shouldn't even bring up the whatever who's going on there. But okay, let's whatever. Let's go to a different company, whatever it is. Salesforce. I'm not buying Salesforce for me, myself, and I. Right. So let's say a Salesforce rep comes to me and they're trying to just pitch me, and then there's another one a few days later. They're saying a different kind of message. I'm wondering what in the world's going on internally, or they've just let their reps like. And this is all hypothetical, right? But I'll help if I can by being like, hey, here's two other ways you could have maybe caught my attention. And why wouldn't you leverage me as someone who has a network of people who are your buyers? So let me, even if I'm not a direct partner with Salesforce, right? I can still be
Yeah.
someone that can be a trusted source. You do the work on my behalf. Say, here's why I want to talk to so and so. So do your due diligence. Here's why I want to go talk to them. Here's the value that I can add. And here's a pre-written intro that I did for you. Obviously, put in your brand tone, all of that. But here's the context as to why. Make it so easy for people to say yes to you when you want to be selling through other individuals. Make it warm. I don't love the whole this is dead, this is dead, this is dead aspect of things. I'm like, okay, well, we're all dying one day. We're all like, what's not dead? So, but there's a play when you do like what you just said, where it's the goodwill. You're a trusted partner. I mean, that goes through the same when pay to play communities that you're in, or the places and spaces where people are already congregating. Those dark social, if you will, those places underground where decisions those are being made without you being in the conversations because you're not an option when if you're not in the conversations. So for sellers to go and be in new spaces today, that makes you the outlier through and through. Um, Go talk to your partners, figure out where in the world their customers are talking, and just have like conversations matter. Go talk to
Yeah.
people, learn what you don't know.
Yeah, absolutely. It's like what Jay McBain talks about quite a bit as well, like your watering
Hmm.
holes. Like it's like
Yeah.
your customers are all somewhere. Like somebody's already done all the heavy lifting of like getting them all into one area. And so it's just about like figuring out like where's the watering hole? Is it like, some form of like community? Is it like another company which works with all of your customers? Is it a service provider? Is it a thought leader? Like somebody in this space, right? Like in your
Hmm.
case as well, like a lot of salespeople look up to you. So it's very natural that like, people who then want to sell Salesforce to salespeople might actually like work with somebody like yourself, right?
Right.
Um, yeah.
Right. I
So
mean, it's interesting how you
yeah,
can. I mean, if you just think outside the box of like the untraditional, all these ways to even talk, push those to the side. I mean, keep the core foundational aspects of what you're trying to do. You're trying to help somebody solve a problem. Great. How are you doing that? And process of elimination again. What's working? What's not working? Literally write it down on a sheet of paper. X out what it is. Like visually see it, and then give out what is working, and then you know what to focus on and where people are at, and then ask for feedback from people. Like the
yeah,
conversations that you can have and the feedback that you can get from your already buyers, or those that are partners. Like there's already the trusted relationship there, but even if they don't know that that's already established, say if it's bottom of the funnel, right, and you're trying to activate some of these other partnerships, you're trying to activate some of these reps and really get them engaged and understanding how it's a benefit for them to be working alongside you. It's there's so much value that can be added if you just share, here's what this can do for you. But if you're not educating yourself as either a partner leader or as a sales individual, it's self-education. It's fine. Like you literally have to go and self-educate if you want to be able to work in tandem together.
yeah, absolutely. Um, before we go on, I wanted to give a quick shout out to the folks who are in the chat. We have Steve, who's a regular in the show. Great to
I
see you,
see.
Steve from St. Louis. We have Moritz from London. We have Emmanuel. We have Tommy, and we have Britain as well. Who said 1+1 = 3, and sales always happens between people, while partnerships can happen between people or companies and associates. That's an interesting one. I feel like one of the points that I made in the book on partnerships, actually, which I talked about with Jay LeBouf, who works at Adobe now on partnerships,
Hmm.
um, was that partnerships are always between people, and sales, I guess, is also always between people. Like companies are not things, like they're not real entities. There's always
Hmm.
somebody on the other end, which is why like you need to multi-thread your deals, because if that one person leaves, your deal is dead. So I'd be curious on that point, Britton, if you want to elaborate a little bit more on why you think there's a difference between like the partnerships between people and companies.
Hmm.
But
I'm
yeah,
curious too, because there is the aspect of no one falls asleep with their title, right? It's kind of the same concept. Like you fall asleep with your name. Like it's not who you are as a Mr. and Miss VP of marketing, whatever your title is. Sure, that's what your job is, but does that mean you fall asleep with that name? No, you are who you are. You are human at the end of the day, and so people crave that human interaction, especially today more than ever, because they're getting so many AI mass blast messages. But there's nothing wrong with leveraging AI if you're enabled to do so best and you know how to actually drive results in revenue and looking at pipeline growth by your outreach that you're doing. If it's moving the needle forward, great. If you're educating yourself again, if you're self-educating, if you don't have someone internally who is teeing you up to leverage AI in the very best way when you're doing your outreach, whether it's to partners, whether it's to those that are going to be potential buyers for product, service, whatever it is that you have that you sell for, it's you got to have that predictability in some sense of knowing that this works, this doesn't work. Predictability is
Yeah.
something that is a tricky one, but no, I'd be interested to hear what he has to say as well. So share with us, please, kind sir.
Yeah, absolutely. While we wait for Brighton, I wanna dive into then a little bit more your experience. Like, what was your aha moment around partnerships? Like, you were selling, and at some point, like it must have flipped the switch where you're like, "Oh my god, this is working," right? Was there like a specific deal or moment?
Yes. So I was on contract with the company, and I, I I jump in. Everything looked great on the outside. Of course, any company you go into, there's going to be the areas where you're like, whoa, why is that not an initiative to like stand up properly? Or like, why is that broken? Nothing is going to be totally perfect within an organization. That's like saying we have a data provider that's perfect. Like
Yeah.
BS right there. Like not true. But no one's
The red
data is
flag in the
perfect.
interview is like, "Nope." Like,
Right. Right. Like that's a red flag if they say everything's like, oh no, we're doing great here. But I go into a company and there is no sales methodology or anything to that. I mean, it's literally they are calling rogue their strategy and they're relying on hope as the strategy too. And like hope is not a strategy to have when it comes to sales. Like you cannot rely on hope as being your strategy, nor going rogue and thinking that following up with someone at midnight after you had a call at 11 a.m. that morning is going to look good on your back. So I I didn't come in to go and actually stand up a sales motion, but I came in to kind of sit more in this umbrella go to market team, which I'm more of a live in market opposed to go to market. I want to go out and be in where the people are, like Ariel, if you will. But I want to, hear what people are talking about and saying, and then come back with the feedback loop. So there's a whole, people are having communication across the whole entire organization. But um, I was looking at things kind of from the perspective of here's partner pipeline that's showing 40% of revenues being driven through tech partners and through the HubSpot ecosystem, but we aren't tapping into that at all. There's no sales motion stood up to where sales is really even understanding what they're doing. So I'm trying to focus on the sales initiative, but I'm thinking, wait a second, why don't I help the sales team be able to work with the HubSpot ecosystem? There was 301 or something unicorn companies where at this one point, and I'm like, that's ICP through and through, right there at our fingertips. And if
yeah.
40% of revenue is already being driven through them, why are we not standing up any kind of motion? So at this company, they have partnerships as just partnerships. That was it. There was nothing that there was no life. There was nothing that showed like, all right, here's our tech partners, here's our channel. There was nothing that differentiated anything. And so I was like, okay, what's working here? What's not? So there's a lot of process, elimination. There was a lot of elimination that was going on to see here's what is working. Awesome. It's partnerships. So it's working with partners because they're driving revenue to us naturally. It is just it's just happening. Why are we not going working top of the funnel and bottom of the funnel? And so kind of put the SWAT team together, if you will, of there were two top sellers. I was like, hey, let's kind of push y'all. And they worked mostly with like C-suite and talking to those that were more pen in hand at the end of the deal. I was like, how about y'all go work top down? And then here's if you newer sellers, okay, y'all go bottoms up. And then let's have these weekly syncs to where we're both understanding what both sides are saying. And then we're meeting in the middle. So where revenue is going to be driven because both sides of this organization, they're going to know how this is going to be beneficial for them and then educating them on how it is. That was an aha moment of like, holy cow, why is no one tapping into where revenue is coming from when it's right at your fingertips? I mean, you can go and literally tap on someone's shoulder, not literally, more figuratively speaking, but go tap on their shoulder and have a conversation about how like, cool, like, thank you so much for this like intro. Also, why are sellers not going and just taking that by the horns and running with those intros? A lot of people don't know the value of what partners can bring, so they dismiss it and see it as again someone else's problem. That's someone else's job.
Yeah.
That's not mine.
Yeah, I think it's very natural. Like we had a similar experience at Hopin as well. Like we had a very sizable sales team, and I was bringing in partners into deals, and like there were a couple of common objections. I think part of it was just not knowing, right? That's an education issue. I think that's like pretty easy to solve. There's like sometimes like a short-term orientedness of like, I need to solve the, like I need to like close a certain amount of deals this quarter. I don't have time for something new. But then, I wanted to go with you for like a couple of common objections that I've experienced. And I just wanted to pick your
Mhm.
brain live on them to see like how
Sure.
you would, get back to the seller. And maybe these are like, objections which are valid as well. And so the first one,
Mhm.
which I just mentioned, would be objection number one, which is I just don't have time to work with partners. Like I need to like hit my number this quarter. I don't have time to experiment with anything new right now.
I mean, you don't have time to keep losing deals the hard way. Is something that is, I mean, a well-placed partner, what are they going to do? What are they going to do? They're going to shorten your sales cycle. So you're doing things an uphill way because you're not making it, you're going cold. You're not doing
Yeah.
things in with someone. So it's warm up those leads. You already have the warmed up leads. Awesome. So then you're going to close your deals faster. And then if you
Yeah.
feel like you're always pushing up, what am I saying? Uphill, then partners are going to absolutely make that climb easier because you're literally locking arms with them, going and like pushing uphill
Yeah.
together. So it's not extra work working with partners. It's all about working smarter with partners because it's already warm. It's right there. So
Yeah.
looking at it as from a time standpoint, you don't have time to go and waste what your currency is, right, on working harder when you don't have to.
Yeah. I think, yeah, Steve has a good point as well. It's like you don't have time not to work with partners. So
Exactly.
not working with them is like a big different, big loss. I do think that there's a bit of a misconception though here, because I think what I'm hearing from sales reps oftentimes is that the time consuming bit is the reciprocal part of partnerships, right? Like you have to like send leads back. And so that is like
Hmm.
oftentimes like an investment. Like it feels easier if marketing just takes like $1 million and gives it to Facebook for ads. And then like we just paid and now I don't have to think about it anymore and that's it, right? The difficulty about partnerships is that it's not just like them introducing deals to you, which is that's the part which everybody gets. I think the difficulty is like
Hmm.
you introducing deals to partners and understanding that like that is like
Yep.
the time consuming bit which they're all worried about, right?
It's a multiplier though when you think about it. I mean, it's if your time is being spent, like what do you want to make? What do you want to be doing with your time? If you're in sales, you have to be revenue focused. You must love money. You want to
Yeah.
make more money, right? So like go work with your partners because if there's the distinct understanding of clear alignment, okay, what is our alignment? What are our mutual expectations that we have at hand? How are we doing this as a give motion opposed to a give take? Because that's where I think a lot of people fall into this trap of this give take, and then it's like, oh, why would I work with them? They're just taking, they're not giving back, and
Yeah.
people want things back. And
That's where
so,
most partnerships die.
right, and it's like if you treat partners as a competition, then that's what they're going to be. You treat them like an ally, then it's going to be where you're winning together. So, um, you know, most sales teams, the best sales teams that I've come across, like who work with partners really, really well, they're winning them in the market right now. They are literally selling with through their partners, educating them on how they both can win together.
Yeah, absolutely. Cool. Objection number two is partners will hijack my deals. I feel like this has come up quite a bit. So one time it happened, like I got like a really angry call from a sales rep who was like, "Hey, I introduced a customer to an agency to provide services, and then the agency just went around my back and like tried to resell our software
Hmm.
to the customer for cheaper." And so that was one example where they were very, very displeased with this interaction, right? And I think that's where people are like concerned, especially for complex deals. You don't want to bring in too many moving parts.
Yeah, no, you don't. And it's, sales teams that are going to collaborate with partners, they're ultimately going to close bigger and better deals. They're going to do it in faster motion. So there was I'm trying to remember exactly what it was. There was a study that Crossbeam did when it came to showing the companies with the stronger partner motion that they had, they were seeing the higher win rates and the larger ACVs. And then it was instead of having that fear of that deal hijacking, which is like, get out of here, people. Come on. I get that that's the thing. Like
Yeah.
being in sales, it's like, oh my gosh, this person hijacked my deal because they said they spoke to that person 3 months ago. Like there's a lot of ways. I mean, salespeople already they're territorial in and of itself, and I'm going to speak as a salesperson by saying this. Like, I'm going to I'm allowed to because I've been on both sides, okay? So I'll play my
Yeah.
part. But it's if you think about that fear of deal hijacking and switch it around, like think about how much pipeline that you're leaving completely untapped by not working with your partners. Like there is a lot of pipeline that isn't being tapped into. And again, like if you're treating them as competition, like they're going to act like competition. Like that's how it's going to be, not intentionally, but they're going to be doing their jobs because they've got a job to do too. So,
Yeah.
you know, don't treat them as competition. They're allies. You win together. When you start winning together, you create that momentum. Then it's the great, let's put the sales focus, revenue focus mindset into play of going faster. Let's do the speed, you know, lead to speed and then warm lead to speed. And then you're having it to where you've got the momentum going and you've got more in the pipeline flowing. That kind of rhymes.
Yeah.
That was kind of a wrap without meaning
Yeah, no,
to.
that was good. Yeah, the partnerships wrap. I like that.
Kind of wrap. Casual.
I think so for that one, I think the other side is also that this is really important for the partnerships manager or the partnerships leader to address as well. Like if you have bad actors, like there's two reasons why deals get hijacked. One is because the partner is a bad actor, and one is because the partner just didn't understand, right? Or like there's a
Yeah.
genuine mistake which happened, or you didn't set clear guidelines. If they're a bad actor, like just throw them out. Like that's
True.
like that's my stance is like, if somebody is not in it to win together, but like just looking out for themselves and is trying to game the system, like it's better to just cut ties and then compete in the free market. That's fine. Like if they want to compete with you for business, they can do that, but just not as like under the guise of a partner. Like you're not enabling
Right.
somebody who's not up like to help you. If there are issues around like just, the clear boundaries you're setting and like,
Hmm.
misunderstandings about like what is allowed, what is not allowed, I think that's on you
Right.
as a partnerships leader to set those guidelines and make sure that the salespeople trust you, that you've set those guidelines, that you educated partners on, okay, here are the rules of engagement. Here are the things that you're allowed to sell to this customer and not, especially if they come from an introduction from a salesperson. And then have those
Right.
clear swim lanes where it's like, okay, these are deals which we work on. These are deals you work on. Here's what's allowed when we have crossovers and so forth. Because there will
Hmm.
be deals as well where I would totally advise you not to involve partners. Like if this is a named
Yeah.
account and this is somebody who's super strategic and you just want to like make sure this one goes over like perfectly without a hitch, it might be better to just like do as much as you can in-house, right? Even large companies like
Right.
Salesforce have premium services teams, which those
Hmm.
services for the biggest customers because they're like, this is so important. I want to make sure that this one goes well.
Right. Right. And it's a huge, right. And if there's, I mean, I think it's really vital to look at the relationships that are established because there are very strategic sellers out there that know how to build relationships in ways that they might not need that partner hand to be holding them, or their hand as they're going uphill because it's not really an uphill battle because the relationship's already established. So knowing who to tap into with your partners, like that does matter. But
Yeah.
also, if it is the line of communication, like, hey, we're good, like, I'm good here. Like, I've worked with this person at 4 different companies, like, whatever this way, so whatever the relationship is, like, communicate it so people don't feel as though they're left out of something too. Because I don't care who you are, like, people get sensitive with things. Like, well, why is it that like they wouldn't want to include me? Okay, one, y'all stop that. Stop being so sensitive about things. Like, everybody's trying to drive revenue and do the very best they can. So, but hopefully, we're all doing the best we can. But knowing that if you could though go and like say ignore the sales side, the sales channel, if it's going to bring you 10% more revenue. I mean, I wouldn't go ignore it, but also know that there could be something that could bring 15% more revenue based off of the fact that like you're tapping, you're gonna have a good relationship with that sales side too. So bringing the relationship first internally, knowing that you can have good relationships that with your partners that are going to cause fruition to happen and occur because you see the lay of the land from their lens and also from a partner. So seeing from each other's lenses matters so much, but it's
Yeah.
easier said than done. Like you can say that all you want to, but like you can't literally go and see behind what, their eyes and what they're seeing. But if a partner's contributing to the revenue that is being created and you're seeing that over and over and over, then go and work with that specific partner. Like have your key partners that you're going to because the fruition's coming, like those are your best friends.
Yeah. Absolutely. Okay, we're almost hitting up on time, so I quickly want to cover objection number 3 as well because it's one of the ones I hear the most, which is that partners are all talk but no money. And so that one is a little bit, pointed, but like I do hear salespeople say that occasionally. And it's oftentimes like a symptom of like a Barney partnership, right? Where it's like people come in and go like we have this great
Hmm.
partner and we should totally co-sell, and then just no deal closes, right? How would you overcome that objection?
I mean, have you been working with the right partners? Looking at the partners that you have, who are you working with the right ones to begin with? And that
Yeah.
sounds like a big no, absolutely through and
Yeah.
through, because not all partnerships are created equal. We should all know that, right? Like they're not created equal. So the key to building that really good partner program that actually is going to drive revenue, move things forward, is that, again, clear accountability and the aligned incentives that you're going to be having, and a partner who actually understands how to sell alongside you. So if you're not seeing the results or the fruits of your labor that you're doing, then there's a little tweaking that needs to be happening within the system of how you're conversing, how you are discussing what's at stake, and also, is this partner right for me? Because there's other partners you can work with. So it's okay to, again, cut ties with people who are not driving revenue alongside you, because that's the whole goal of it.
Yeah. Absolutely. I think you hit the nail on the head. Like this is actually very valid feedback. Like if you hear this objection from somebody and it's
Hmm.
about partnerships that you just formed, you should really view the partnerships that you were working on because they might be right, right? Like this might be the kind of harsh feedback that you need to hear that you just like partnered with the wrong companies. Like especially on
Right.
the technology partnership side, like I've been guilty of this in
Yes.
the past where there was like a really cool integration. I'm like, look, and then you can add the metaverse into your product. And it's like
Right.
nobody wanted it. Like they all said they wanted it, but nobody was willing to pay for it, which is a big difference, right? And so that's
Right.
why
So you
like,
look
the
at all
integration
that.
happened
Hmm.
because we had all this like feedback of like we want this, but then when it came to actually paying for it, customers were like, yeah, actually no, this is we can totally live without it. And so that's like
Right.
basically what we got from the sales team as feedback, which is really important because then it was a moment for us to look into the mirror and say like, okay, let's only work with partners where we actually have overlapping customers already or where customers
Hmm.
already put down the money to prove that there is money rather than just work off of like hype and like
The hype
excitement.
of the excitement. Yeah. I mean, you hit it right there with like the tech partners. Like that is a huge one, because it is the excitement of like, oh, here's like the added benefits and gains that you get from like this. But like, is it a nice to have or is it a need to have? Like, which one?
Yeah.
And are people actually like looking at what people are pouring their money and revenue into? You got to have the data. I mean, data talks, numbers speak. Like, if you don't have that, then you literally shouldn't be talking about anything to anyone. Like, knowing
Yeah.
what it is that's moving things forward, that has to be, this part of my channel that you're having this conversations through. Where is that being had, and how are you doing it best with your partners, and knowing what the feedback is that the market's saying? What are those buyers talking about? Because if you don't know what they're talking about, you're just bringing BS to the table, and you're wasting your time, and that's your money, and that's your livelihood and your roof over your head. I mean, think smarter in terms of how are you generating the best relationships that are warm, and the leads that are warm, and the
Yeah.
ability to go and create the life that you want to be living, and in a space where you can leverage partners to be that connective tissue where you can
Yeah.
actually go drive things together. So make, like, give sellers, partners are not bad people, I promise. The partnership people, they are wonderful human beings. Go befriend them, go talk to them, go learn what it is that they do. Because if you don't know, you don't know, then go figure it out. Go
Yeah.
self-educate if you don't
Absolutely. Yeah. I think that's such an important point as well. Like I think you as a partnerships leader are like a little mini entrepreneur within the company. And so you have to
know.
talk to the sales team and go like, what do you need from me? Like what are the kind of partners that would be beneficial based on what you're hearing from customers? And then try to engineer partnerships which are beneficial to the sellers, beneficial to the customers, and beneficial to the partners. And then everybody wins because they're all like, seeing the
And
value
then
in that as
everybody
well. Like
wins.
too often you just
Right.
kind of you only talk to either the customer or only talk to the partner and then like leave out the
Mhm.
sales team. And by the time you reach them, you're like, oh, this is actually not what we want.
Right. And then, of course, arms up. Like, people
Yeah.
are like, no, no, or guns blazing, and
Yeah.
whatever you want to say, whatever sellers don't want to be left out, you don't leave them out, people. Like, just
Yeah.
kidding. But they are the ones driving the revenue. Like you said, they are the ones putting the fingers on the checks. But partnerships also is too. Like, don't discount what partnerships can bring to the table
Yeah.
when it comes to higher ACVs and larger checks that you're going to receive.
Yeah. Absolutely. We're already over time, but
We
I wanted to
totally
make sure that
are.
we put like a quick actionable insight at the end. So, if you're a seller and you listen to the session and you're like, wow, I want to start working with partners today. What is a good starting point?
I would say the very best starting point that you have is like looking at your pipeline. So find the partners that you already have trust. Like there's already the trust that you need established. So you look at your pipeline and then who are your prospects already working with? Which agencies, which consultants, which are already in motion. And then I would say the second part to that being like maybe go and make one ask to one partner a day. So put some kind of like here's what I'm going to do daily. Okay, cool. So partnerships don't have to be so complex. As a lot of people tend to see them as like if you're in sales, if you go to one partner today and you say, hey, do you have any customers who might be a good fit for us? And how can I go return the favor? So you make it a give right from the start. You start so simple in this approach, build that momentum, and then you watch the pipeline grow. So I would say that's the biggest thing. Like go set a goal in mind of what you can do daily, every other day, whatever, but talk to a partner and then find the partners who already have the trust that you need, go work with them, and then look at your pipeline too. Like,
Yeah.
you got to look at the data.
Yeah, absolutely. Like it's such an important point. Like you probably have partners already, even if you don't have a partnerships team. There are probably
Right.
people who are partners or who should be partners in your ecosystem who you might already like loosely know, which are always a great point to start and to see, is there more we can do together? Are there data points we can use to prove out that this is valuable in terms of either higher ACV, faster sales cycles, or more leads?
That's how you get the buy-in from the C-suite, right? That's how you get the pen on paper.
Yeah.
Okay, cool, great. Okay, we're actually seeing the revenue, the ROI being going up. Cool. That's how you get people to pour dollars into a partner program, into your sales mission, not just into marketing, whatever it may be, or sales, all of these different plethora of tools. It's like, because that's where partnerships can struggle too, is like we don't have the means to do some of the things we absolutely could do. But leverage the relationships being at the forefront. Like that is absolutely the biggest thing. Is like who how you can go and talk to the right individuals and just converse and then ask the right questions.
Yeah, absolutely.
And make it a give.
And make it a give. What a great way to wrap it up. Awesome. We are way over time, so I'm going to wrap up the show now. I don't want to take more of your time, Amelia, but this was great. Thanks so much for joining us. And I also want to give a shout out to everybody who joined us live. We have Kirby, Steve, Moritz, Emmanuel, Tommy, and Britton. Really appreciate you taking the time out of your day to join us here live. With that being said, this was the partnership. We're going to be back in 3 weeks. I'm going to be at NAB in Las Vegas in 2 weeks, but in 3 weeks' time, we'll be back with a new show. And until then, have a great day, everybody. See you then. Bye.
Hark now, mates, lend an ear.
Hear us now.
Captain Franz at the helm so steer. Gather round the partnership's deck.
Scripts command.
Tales from the leaders of the partnership train. So we chant by the podcast glow. Through wearable seats to boxes flow. Dark